Today's video is about a podcast, not a book or a book series, but I still think you should stay around a while because as we learned when Welcome to Night Vale became very popular, podcasts can tell stories too, and they can tell stories in really interesting ways. And I'm a fan of stories, regardless of their medium. I like good movies, I like good TV shows, I like good video games with good stories. So when Monty and Alex, who are the writers and producers and creators of Ink, the podcast, reached out to me asking for an honest review of their podcast, I was really excited about it. I was very intrigued. The way that they pitched it to me is that this podcast is a mix of The Office and Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I saw those influences, and I also really found a lot of it resonated with my IT crowd-loving self. Right now there are about a dozen episodes out. I listened to all of them and filmed my reactions so that you could know which ones were the best, what they're all about, what the tone of the episodes are, and get a sense of whether this is something that you would like to listen to or not. If you just want the kind of TLDR, what's going on, where should I start, there is going to be a timestamp for my general impressions as well as the main episodes that I recommend and why I recommend them. Sit back, relax, and enjoy me reacting to a storytelling podcast about bureaucrats in space. I just listened to the first 4 minutes of episode 1. The first 4 minutes. Now they perfectly summarize my day yesterday. So I work in government and I do data analysis. Government, and the computer hates me. And that's exactly what the first 4 minutes are about. I'm gonna try and refrain and not react until the end of the episode, but oh my god. The first 4 minutes are just so accurate to like dealing with annoying government computers that just like make no sense. And you're just trying to do this very, very basic task. And you gotta do it again. And you gotta do it again. Because the system keeps kicking you out. Or it keeps crashing. Or the remote computer connection doesn't work. Yeah, that... Oh, too real. Too real. I call this angle, we're at a sleepover and I'm telling you about the first episode of a podcast I just listened to. So it's a storytelling podcast. It's called Ink, the podcast, and it is about bureaucrats on a spaceship. Now, I'm a bureaucrat, unfortunately, and I wish I was on a spaceship, but I mean, they're making it pretty clear that it wouldn't actually be that much better. So what happens in the first episode is that we meet Bethany, who's working a soul-sucking government job, essentially bureaucratic government job. And Bethany, in the first few moments of the episode, fights the AI that keeps doing exactly the opposite of what Bethany wants the AI to do, which is how I feel about Microsoft Office. And is a quintessential part of the bureaucrat experience that I think the episode just captured so beautifully. And then there's these really funny, like, interjections over a, automatic announcement system telling you all the sort of comically, horrible and profit-driven things that the company does, or that the spaceship organization, incorporation, does. For example, this episode features a raffle, and it's not quite the raffle that you think it would be. It's not evil, we're not talking Shirley Jackson lottery, but it's evil in a late-stage capitalism kind of way, which I really appreciated. So Bethany's living her worst life, and then Jonas joins us. Jonas is there on their first day, and we immediately feel so sorry for Jonas. And Bethany also feels sorry for Jonas because poor Jonas needs to learn that there is nothing fulfilling or interesting about this job. Someone just needs to do it, probably for some reason. How many bureaucrats does it take to screw in a light bulb kind of situation. And poor Jonas is tasked with delivering a file to a different department. But Jonas doesn't know what they're doing, and they also don't care. And, like, what a mood. If my coworkers are watching this is a joke. But also, what a mood. The fallout ensues. And Jonas realizes that the only way to survive a soul-sucking government job is to engage with stories. And therefore Jonas starts a YouTube channel talking about books. And therefore Jonas gets engrossed in a story on the job. Still needs to prioritize work. But I'm really curious as to where it's going to go. I know that when the podcast hosts reached out to me, they told me that a lot of the podcast is going to be about the importance of storytelling, so I'm very excited to see sort of how that develops, because I'm a big believer in the importance of storytelling and how stories keep us sane and alive and, can get us through drudgery. That is also the origin story of this YouTube channel. So I quite enjoyed the first episode. I'm not completely hooked yet. I'm intrigued, but I'm not hooked. I'd give it overall like a 3.5 stars. Like, the production value is really good. There were definitely some comical moments. Some of the humor is things that I've seen before, but I did enjoy the execution of it, and I thought it was genuinely funny. All in all, it was a pretty solid pilot, and I'm very excited for the second episode. Hey, I just listened to episode 2 while knitting, and it had such like IT crowd energy. I really enjoyed it. Okay, there's this pretty funny scene where something that's not quite coffee lights on fire, and it just reminded me so much of that scene where Moss in IT crowd sees the fire extinguisher light on fire, and he's like, I'm just gonna put this with the rest of the fire. I'm really enjoying, like, the energy of the second episode is very different from the energy of the first episode. I found the first episode was more like bureaucracy drudgery, but that might also be because I listened to it on my lunch break of bureaucratic drudgery. While today's episode was a little more about not understanding dumb bureaucratic stuff and just being like, why am I even doing this? Yeah, the second episode just has this really fun, like, bit where Jonas, one of our characters, has to fill out a form, and it's, like, multiple choice, and they just fill out, like, every single multiple choice bubble, and, like, every single bit, and they're like, I did a good job! I filled everything out! The form is complete! And the supervisor's like, that's not what you were supposed to do. But, like, does it matter? And that's a good question. Does it matter? Because, like, bureaucracy's garbage. Anyway, I quite enjoyed it. I'm gonna listen to the third episode, I think, like, right now. It's really, really fun to listen to in, like, short bursts. I typically listen to audio quite accelerated. So when I listen to audiobooks, I listen to them at 2 times speed. This I've been listening at 1.2 times speed, which is typical for podcasts, because I find podcasters tend to talk a lot faster than audiobook readers read. And I'm finding 1.2x speed is really good, and it makes the episodes about 25 minutes long. So it feels like I'm just listening to a sitcom. Like, right now it's really giving me IT crowd in space. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. On to the next episode. It's many hours later. A lot has happened. I went on a walk. I had dinner. I listened to episode 3. I listened to episode 4. Episode 3 felt kind of mediocre. Wasn't really my thing. It was kind of like conspiracy theory stuff, like Jonas was going down into conspiracy theory territory, but it was obvious that it was not, like, completely innocuous and nothing was actually happening, so I wasn't super into it. But I loved episode 4. The creator, I loved it. It's my favorite so far. Like, that's a solid 4 stars, I'd say. Maybe 4.5. I really, really liked the story of the creator. Very, very interesting. So, like, what's really fun is, like, yes, it's a comedy podcast, but the writers did the thing that's great, that you can do with sci-fi, which is like explore humanity and explore a certain idea. I really saw the story as a metaphor for compassion and empathy, and I found it very interesting, and it's definitely given me some food for thought, so I really enjoyed episode 4 so far. Episode 3, I was kind of like, yeah, I was feeling lukewarm, not sure if I wanted to continue listening, but episode 4, I'm now like, okay, you've got me. You've got me. I am intrigued, because I'm not only laughing, but I'm also contemplating, and that is a very nice space to be in. I like laughing and contemplating.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to my evening coffee. This time of year is extremely brutal for me, like with the changes in temperature and the changes in like barometric pressure and weather. I've just been having migraine after migraine. Like I can't even tell you how many I've had because I'm not sure like where one ended and where one began. Kind of thing. But the last 2 weeks have been a bit of a nightmare. And stories have been getting me through it. Stories are an amazing thing. And I have really been appreciating how this podcast has also gotten me through it. So like last night and the night before, I ended up just sort of casually listening to the episodes. I was trying to react to every single one. That just didn't go as planned. What's happened in episodes 5 through 8, they're bleeding together a little bit, but the main stuff that has happened is that Bethany and Jonas are starting to understand each other a little more. Bethany is very much like, yes, our job sucks, but someone's got to do it. I guess it's going to be us. While Jonas is like, okay, well, can we make it suck less? Which is always a fun sort of bureaucratic thing. And it's been a little bit of a difficult podcast for me to listen to, just given that I am a bureaucrat. And I'm also someone who doesn't do well being a bureaucrat. I'm really very bad at it. If my boss is watching, hi, that's a joke. I promise. I care about my job. Please don't fire me. Yeah, I'm not very good at being a bureaucrat, and one of the things that has helped a lot has been actually just like how much I've been reading. I mean, one of the reasons I started the YouTube channel, I mentioned this in another video, one of the reasons I started the channel was to cope with my bureaucratic job. That involves data entry and data analysis and staring at data and staring at weird data sometimes. So I'm finding the characters extremely relatable. So what else has happened in episodes 5 through 8? Jonas has now been with the spaceship for a year, and their 1 year anniversary present from the company is that they get a chair and they're allowed to sit down sometimes. So what they do is they just end up sleeping, which like is the most relatable thing ever. I love sleeping. We also get an episode where I think it's episode 7 that we get 3 little stories that Jonas like convinces Bethany to tell us about, because the reason there's these stories is that every time that a planet is incorporated, meaning is like taken in by the overlords that control the spaceship, Bethany and Jonas's department get some data about it, and sometimes that data is EBI data, extraneous but interesting. And this extraneous but interesting data is a lot of just the stories that we're hearing, and we'll get these little stories about strange little planets that maybe only have 2 people living on them. God, there was this really good bit, I think it was in episode 7, where these 2 civilizations regard each other as gods, so when one collapses, it's like from their perspective, these gods allowed their civilization to collapse. Well, from these perspective, it's like their gods have collapsed, but they haven't. Why not? Yeah, I've been really enjoying it. Like nothing has, how do I put it? Nothing has like really stood out to me, but there's nothing that I'm really like disliking so far. So it's a very solid like 3.5 star podcast for me right now. The episodes are really bite-sized, and I think I have 4 more to listen to before I wrap up the vlog, so I'm actually going to get to that. I might reorganize my space a little bit. You might notice there's a new poster up here. It's different from the last one. Maybe I'll fix this mess while listening to some episodes later today or tomorrow. We'll see. Yeah, I'm glad a little sci-fi comedy podcast about bureaucrats came into my life, because I have been needing the chuckles, and I've been needing the relatability, and I've really been needing the little interjections of Remember, your surprise planned coffee break is mandatory. You must take it right now, punch out right now, and if you don't punch in, you must work for free. I think the writers and I have worked at the same company. Blink twice if you're in danger. Hi, I liked episode 9 because I like to suffer, and episode 9 was really sad. Like, help. Help, I'm experiencing emotion. Help. It was really good. It was really good. If you love pets, help. This episode will make you sad. Help. Alrighty, my dudes, we're chilling in the bedroom. As an ode to the fact that I listened to the last few episodes before bed last night. Just kind of, I had a really lazy Friday night. Played some video games, and then basically played games on my phone while listening to a few episodes of the podcast, and they were so good. They were so good. I feel like as the episodes went on, I guess part of it is like, obviously I learned to like the characters more and more. Bethany and Jonas have both really grown on me. Bethany sort of has this like sense of resignation, but is maybe finding some more life and joy and purpose in her existence. While Jonas is so like childish and playful, but has the wisdom of the importance of those things. So I've just been really enjoying watching them interact, well, listening to them interact, and I've been, just really enjoying the last few episodes. They were really, really good. Like I said, episode 9 filled me with a lot of emotion. I needed a minute. And then I really liked the episode that wasn't an episode, because there's technically 12 out, but they're only labeled up to 11 because there's a fake episode between 10 and 11. That's about the mysterious holes on the ship, and it was not comedy, it was horror. It was genuine horror, and some of the sound effects that were done were really, really scary. So it was a lot of like first-person accounts of going into these mysterious holes and what happens, and just the amount, how do I put it? They were so like, everything is fine, and now I don't have skin anymore. Or everything is fine, as you can see, well, no longer because your eyes are gone. But they did it way better and way less cheesy than I just kind of portrayed it. I really, really enjoyed it. And then they just did the stuff with sound effects that like genuinely creeped me out. I don't get creeped out by a lot of stuff because I really do like horror. But like I needed a minute. I needed to like pause it. So I would say the podcast just gets better and better as you go. I really recommend it. Okay, so my top episodes. I'd say The Caregiver, episode 4. Okay, if you're gonna only listen to a few, here's what I recommend you do. Listen to episode 1 to get the tone that's very like IT crowd, a little bit The Office, of Jonas joins the team and now we know what's going on. So start with episode 1. Just to get the lay of the land, but don't have your expectations of the podcast set around that. Then, if you don't want to go in order, but you want to get a taster, I would recommend episode 4, The Caregiver, which I think I called The Creator earlier, but it's called The Caregiver. And I think that's one of the first stories that really like piqued my interest. After that, I would recommend episode 7, which is the one that had like 3 separate stories, and I think the stories were really good. And also gives you like a really nice flavor. Like you could even skip episode 4, go straight to episode 7 to sort of get a flavor of the types of stories the podcast tells. I would then recommend episode 9 if you like me, like to suffer. Because it was just really, really sad and it filled me with emotions, and I like experiencing emotions that hurt. Don't know what that says about me as a person, but I really enjoyed episode 9. And then I would recommend the episode without, I think it's called unincorporated instead of having an episode number, if you're looking for horror. So those are I guess my top 5. So definitely start with the intro just to get a sense. If you want a sampler of the stories, episode 7. If you want something really sad, episode 9. If you want something really heartfelt, episode 4. And if you want horror, the episode that doesn't have a title, unincorporated. The episode that doesn't have a number, unincorporated. Those are my recommendations, but honestly, it's really fun, and I'm really, really grateful that I got a chance to review this podcast. Thank you so much, Alex and Monty, for reaching out to me. You were right, this was up my alley. I'd say overall, this is like a 4-star podcast for me. I am very stingy about giving 5 stars, so 4 stars is very good. 4 stars means I like it, and I think a lot of people would like it as well. And I think it has like a lot of merit. I do plan on listening to it as it continues. I'm really excited to see the directions in which they'll take the show. The production value is really, really good. Like, the audio quality is amazing, and the music's really good, and just there's a lot of wit, there's a lot of fun. I really recommend this to you guys. I recommend it if you like absurdist humor, if you like satire that criticizes things like office culture and excessive capitalism, if you like stories that involve eco-fiction or commentary on human relationships or commentary on empathy and compassion, then I would say that this is a podcast that you should really check out and give a shot to. If you enjoyed the kind of dark humor, or sort of like pseudo-darkness, but humorous one of Welcome to Night Vale, I think that this would be also something for you. Not a book today. Thank you for watching anyway. I hope you read a really great book sometime soon, and if you're not reading a book, I hope you experience a really great story in any other medium, be it video game, podcast, movie, TV show. Stories are wonderful, and I just hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. All right.